Okay, for this last video, we're going to be talking about identifying congruent angles. So congruent angles, what that means is it's just angles that have the same measure. So really similar to congruent segments, those are the ones that have the same length. Congruent angles, they have the same measure, so their degrees the same. So in the diagram, what we see here, the measure of angle ABC is equal to the measure of angle DEF, so we can say that these two angles are congruent. And this is read as angle ABC is congruent to angle DEF. And something important to note here is that those arc marks mean those angles are congruent. So really similar to those tick marks that we used for segments, and we marked that two segments were congruent with one tick mark, and then maybe another set were congruent with two tick marks. We have the same thing with arcs. So let's say I had those angles made up in this X. I can mark that these two angles are congruent by one arc, but then I can mark that these two angles are congruent by two arcs. So it's really similar to when we were doing segments. So let's look at an example. Here it says, identify the congruent angles labeled in the figure above. So I'm looking for matching arcs, and it has to be the same number of arcs. So I see on this diagram, I have the arc here, and so when I'm naming that angle, G is my vertex, so that's going to be in the middle, and then I look on either side, so I have F and H. And that's going to be congruent to the other angle that also has one arc mark. Well, that's here. And that's going to be this angle. So that's going to be BAD. Again, my vertex is in the middle. Well, I also have one with two arc marks. And so that's this angle HIF. And in the figure over here, the other one that has two arc marks is this angle here. So that's going to be ADC. And then the next question, it says, if measure of angle ADC is 140 degrees, what is the measure of angle HIF? Well, we already marked over here that these two angles are congruent. And when they're congruent, that means their measures are equal. So that means that the measure of angle HIF is equal to 140 degrees. And that's because they're congruent. Okay, that is it for today. If you want some extra practice, you can do those extra practice problems below. If you need some extra examples, you can look at those. Otherwise, you can go ahead and get started on that assignment. Have a great rest of your day.